In this video we're going to look at using Excel to plot some bivariate data into a scatter plot, and we're also going to look to see how we can do a plot of the residuals as well. So to do this we're going to use an example out of the textbook where it's looking at comparing the number of drinks sold with the temperature of the day. So the temperature is going to be our explanatory variable, so that'll go on our x-axis, and the number of drinks sold depend on the temperature, so that's our response, which will go on our y-axis. The first thing we need to do is enter the data into some columns on Excel. Once we have our data entered, if we just highlight our data, and a fast way to do that is to highlight the rows that you want, Control-Shift your down arrow, and then we can just go Insert and insert a scatter plot. Before we go any further, I'm going to give my scatter plot some titles. Our horizontal axis is our independent variable or our explanatory variable, and that is going to be the temperature. And our vertical axis is our dependent variable or our response variable, and that's the number of drinks sold. Now if we look at my graph here, there's a whole lot of section from 0 to 15 degrees of our temperature. Now I should actually put my units in there that really don't show me anything in the graph, so I'm just going to remove those, and the easiest way to do it is just double click onto that and I get my Format Axis tabs, and I'm just going to have a look at my minimum value, and I think I might start my minimum value at 15 degrees, so I'm just going to change that value there to 15 degrees. Now I want to include my regression line or my line of best fit, and it looks like there's a linear pattern, and the pattern looks fairly strong, so I'm just going to click on any of my data cells and I'm going to add a trend line. I also want it to display the equation of on the chart, and I also want it to display the R-squared value. So you can see now that there is my scatter plot with the equation for my regression line or my line of best fit with my R-squared value. But what I also wanted to do was actually plot the residuals. Now remember, the residuals is the difference between each data point and the line of best fit. So I'm going to create a column with a new set of data values. These values, I'm going to use my equation to calculate the values for each one of those points on that line. I'm just going to call this data my line of best fit data, and because I want Excel to calculate, I'm going to start off with equals. So it's going to equal, so each one of these y values is going to equal the x value, so my x value multiplied by 4.3197 plus my A value 2.4349. And enter. And then I can just click on that cell, move my cursor until my cross becomes a little skinny cross in the corner, and drag that down, and it will calculate all of those y values for every point on my regression line that correspond to the x values of my data points. For my residuals, I just want to find the difference between the y value of my data and the corresponding y value on my line of best fit. So I'm just going to go equals the y value of my data minus the y value of my line of best fit. And I'm just going to copy that down. So now I have a new plot, and you see that some of those are positive and some of those values are negative. So let's plot that now. So I'm going to highlight the cell I want my x values, okay, and control, and I'm going to highlight my new y values for my residuals, and I'm going to insert a scatter plot. And what you see here is now I have a plot of my residuals. Now I probably will just fix up my x-axis as I did before. So text options, axis options, and I want my minimum value to start at 15. And here you can see the difference between my Y values of my data and my residuals, and what you can also see is that it's a fairly random pattern, and like we said in the last video about Desmos, that indicates that a linear model is the best model for my line of best fit.